weeks ago, wanted to pull my eyes out watching New England collapse. That Jets-Dolphins game on Sunday, really, Jets? You're going to kick the field goal and then gag it and go to overtime? And then even Bengals-Cowboys last night. You're going to block a punt and give the football back to the other team? I tweeted it last night. It's almost like any team that could have helped the Broncos the last couple of weeks has had a monumental collapse. I mean, think about those 3 examples I just cited.
Not only that, but then even like your own problems, your field goal attempt in Kansas City, where you would have helped yourself a ton there.
But I'm talking about just the last 2 Sundays when we've been able to really scoreboard watch, because the Broncos haven't played the last 2 Sundays.
Yeah.
Played a Monday game, had a bye. Those 3 examples, we all thought New England had Indy beaten. We all thought the Jets had the Dolphins beaten. And last night when it's 4th and 16, I didn't have in my head, since he's going to get the football back here. All 3 results directly hurt the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, well, I mean, do you want the help or do you want it earned?
Well, I'll take help, man. We haven't been to the playoffs since 2015. Like, I am no shame asking for help, wanting help, scoreboard watching, looking for help. But all that said, you just said it. The Broncos have to beat the Colts this weekend. Like, if they beat the Colts, Cello, what's the conversation going to be? Can you get to the 6 seed? Can you get to the 5 seed? Can you avoid Buffalo? If they lose to Indy, then all of a sudden we're all going, oh my gosh, do they have to go 3-0 to even make this dance? It's just such a big fork in the road game. And I told Zach and Phil, I'm guilty of it too. I think these last 4 games, because they're after the bye, they've been really easy to group together and bunch together. I mean, how many times over the last month have you and I talked about, you got the Colts, then you got the Chargers, then you got the Bengals, then you got the Chiefs? Like, I feel like we've uttered that sentence 37 times. I hope it's different down there at Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit, that there's not any overlooking Indy, because the numbers don't lie. The difference between winning and losing this game probably determines if you make the postseason for the first time in nearly a decade.
Well, and I think it also says, like, if you lose this game, the I guess projections of what you would have to go through, I don't think a lot of people would be saying that the Broncos are going to head into L.A., even though it'll be a virtual home game for them there.
Short week. Remember, they allowed that to get flexed. That was a big story.
Not only that, and the last time you faced up against the Chargers, they put a beat down on you physically. Like, that was a wake-up call game. And the Broncos have responded since, but I think it speaks more to, can you handle your business, and what would happen were they to lose this game coming up? Because I think, like you said, we've all had these games as highlighted. This is an easy stretch of the season where you should be able to make up some ground. You drop this one, it's just unbelievable to me how much it affects your relative chances. And, like, listen, those are all just projections as they're laid out, but puts the Broncos in a tough situation where it's easy to know that you may have like a game here or there in your back pocket versus having to go. If you lose, then your playoffs start next week.
Yeah, I think what you're getting at there, and I agree, is if you win, you actually can afford a slip up or maybe even 2 and still get in. You lose, all of a sudden you're playing 4 days later and it feels like your season's on the line in L.A. That's a scary feeling, a feeling that is frankly quite avoidable if you beat Indy this weekend.
Yeah, and I think I can sense your apprehension going into it. I don't think since we've been doing this Tuesday nights, like, I don't know that I felt you feel this worried about a game.
I'm nervous about it because
I think you felt more comfortable going into Kansas City. I
think I did. I think it's the bye week thing, man. Like, I don't love buys when you feel like your team is hot. They feel like momentum killers to me. And I know the bye being the latest bye, remember they have the latest bye in the NFL, them and 5 other teams, looks good from hey, we'll get a Riley Moss update tomorrow. Does he have any shot to play on Sunday? Health. People's always focused on health and rest and health and rest. I'm more focused on momentum. And that's I guess, where I worry a little bit. I didn't feel this way last week because I thought the Cleveland game was kind of helter-skelter, little wacky. Okay, these guys need some time to exhale, deep breath. But just sitting through a weekend without the Broncos, man, I'm like, this isn't good. I wish they had played. This team's rolling right now. That's where I think that apprehension comes from, is I'll be curious to see how they respond.
I would be more apprehensive about it just because of the way the defense played going into the bye week.
It showed you that Riley Moss he's not the best player.
No, but he's very valued.
But he's one of the most important players.
And I brought this up to you last week, was, do you think there was a blueprint of some sort to show the rest of the league what you can do to attack Vance Joseph's defense, especially if they're going to be missing key parts of that defense?
Oh, totally. What do you think's been playing on loop at the Colts facility the last 48 hours?
Yeah.
That game.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, that would be my level of concern. But everything that this team has been challenged with, from the way that they started to, weathering the storm, to Bo Nix starting slow, figuring out the process throughout the year, you would say if you want to be a playoff team, this is a game you can't lose at home.
No, you can't. It feels like the Patriots game last year on Christmas, and we all know how that one worked out. But there's
too many that you can mention over Broncos history that it would feel like this. Like, I don't know if you remember the big collapse before Mike Shanahan got fired, where they had, I think Buffalo came into town.
Weren't they 8-5 and they finished 8-8?
3-game lead on the Chargers, and they ended up missing the postseason.
Because didn't they go to San Diego on a Sunday night in Week 17?
That was crap. It was the week before where they could have solidified the division and beat Buffalo at home, and they didn't do it.
And it was in an era where Buffalo was very bad.
Yeah, and it's just like you said last year with that opportunity to go to the postseason on Christmas Eve and to just, grab the bid, so to speak.
Yeah. Was it Christmas Eve or was it Christmas?
I think it was Christmas Eve.
I think it was Eve. I think you're right. I think it was
the year
Eve.
before was Christmas Day.
Oh, that was
LA.
the Hackett debacle. Yeah, I'm kind of glad the Broncos are avoiding Christmas altogether this year. Even though the NFL is greedy as all heck and is going to have games on Wednesday because they want games on Christmas, it's nice that our Broncos won't be involved. Hey, Sean Payton spoke to the media yesterday. First time we had heard from him in a week. That's a long time, guys. I write about this all the time at denversports.com. We hear from Sean 3, 4, 5 days a week. First time we had heard from him in a week. Here was Sean on, did you get any work done during the bye?
We played Monday night. This morning we met. We kind of went through what we felt like we did well, who played well. Guys will work out lip. There's no grand message. Key for us is just the process, the routine as we get ready for this game this weekend, and then certainly making the corrections in the game we just played.
I mean, listen to the first part of that answer again.
We played Monday night. This morning we met. We kind of went through what we felt like we did well, who played.
This team had 6 days off, Jello. They played Monday night. That audio's from Monday morning. We met. We talked about things we did well, things we need to work on. No grand message. Like, he got these dudes the heck out of Dodge for nearly an entire week. Again, rest, relaxation, I'm all for that. The focus is where it scares me a little bit. They got out of their routine. They were all gone. I didn't see any Instagrams, but you could tell me half of them were on a beach in Mexico, and I'm not going to be the guy who criticizes that. They've earned that. But it's just sort of human nature as you sort of work back in to this massive game that's right around the corner.
Well, and it kind of depends on what his message was when he sent them on their way last Monday night, right? As far as turn it off, guys. I don't want you thinking I don't want you in your playbooks. I don't want you to and maybe that was needed because they've been going since the end of July. So at some point or another, it's kind of like that reprieve. I say this all the time, and I don't care what kind of business you're in. If you're in whatever business in the world, every so often you need that break to go kind of recharge your batteries a little bit, whether it's every 3 to 6 months or so, something like that, where you kind of get away from the daily grind of whatever your career is, and you kind of come back a little bit rejuvenated.
Well, again, I'm not opposed to that, okay? So I don't want to, and I'm not saying you're doing it, but I don't want to get painted into a corner of Will hates bye weeks or Will hates guys resting or Will hates guys going to the beach.
You're kind of leaning towards sounding like somebody we know pretty well.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Because now I'm going to get brought up to like Tony Romo down in Cabo with Jessica Simpson.
No, well, that's an infamous example.
That was between a playoff game and the end of a regular season.
What I'm getting at is there's that human nature to take the foot off the gas a little bit. Take the foot off the gas, and all of a sudden you're playing the biggest game of your season when Sean just told us these guys haven't done anything for the last week. Let's just hope that tomorrow, and Mace will be out there, Cecil will get in the locker room. Let's just hope tomorrow it's crisp, right? It looks crisp. The reports are it's crisp. The energy is good. I'm just not looking for a sense of, is it lethargy? Is that the word?
Yeah.
I'm not looking for lethargy, a lethargic nature from the Denver Broncos. And I hope next Tuesday I don't have to say, hey, Cello.
Listen, man, you're not wrong.
Real quick. I don't want to have to say, oh, they were down 14-0. Who tried to sound the alarm bells last week and who got dismissed saying he sounds like someone we all know?
Oh, man, I can't. If that were to happen, you and James are going to be classic to listen to. But I mean, it's that.
I'd rather they win, dude. I'd rather be wrong. I'm just putting the scenario out.
Well, listen, you're not wrong. I mean, it happens year in and year out with teams that have buys. Right? There's a lot of times someone could end a regular season on a hot streak, take that 1 week off, and then for whatever reason, sports are funky like that where things kind of change at that point. And if you see it going into the postseason, hell yeah, it could happen after a regular season bye week. But it depends on what kind of leadership you have within that building now.
Here was Sean on the mindset coming out of this bye, particularly it being the latest one in the NFL.
The time away mentally, physically, the rest you get is healthy for the players as well as the coaches. A lot of people would ask, do you prefer a late bye, middle of the season bye, early bye? After a while, you learn there's certain things you don't control, so you don't pay really much attention to them. The later is a bye, as I've been a part of, and yet I think it fell at a good time. We've got a good month of football ahead of us here. That obviously all those games are going to be important, and so you want to be as healthy as possible and as rested as possible. But it starts with the game this week at home.
I mean, listen, he said all the right things there, but he also acknowledged, first of all, I can't control the bye, so I'm not going to lose sleep over when it comes. But second of all, as late a bye as he's ever been a part of, it's very rare, Cello, and you and I have both been doing this for a long time. I can't remember the last time the Broncos had a bye week in December. I mean, that just doesn't happen.
No, not at all. I mean, no, typically it's usually like right around the midpoint of the season.
Yeah, Halloween, I think, is generally when you sort of feel like you're in bye week mode.
Well, I've seen it where the teams had the bye week early and one of the first available weeks to have a bye too, which then there's the pros and cons of that as well. I like where it fell. I like where it fell. I like how they played going into it. And I'd be shocked if they don't come out kind of proving their point because Benito was on Pat McAfee like last week, right?
Yep.
Talking about all the naysayers going into the season. This team's fueled by something a little bit different. And I think that culture, credit to Sean Payton, has changed within the locker room. And it starts with your young rookie quarterback that I think I think they enjoyed the bye, but I would assume the way that this team has played this year, that probably 3-4 days into it, they're like, I'm ready to get back.
Yeah, probably itching to be back at the facility. I would think that for sure. The other sort of thing that I think has been totally under-discussed but is on the line this weekend, they can secure their first winning season since 2016. They can get to that magic number 9 since the schedule switched to 17 games. I guess it's always been 9 because before it was 9-7. Now it's 9-8, provided you don't have a wacky tie. But that's a long time. That's a long time since we've had a winning season. I'm curious your thoughts on how important is the symbolic nature of first winning season since the year after Super Bowl 50?
I think it's massive, and I don't think you want to stop at 9.
No.
I always hated that number, even when it was 16 games. The whole 9-7, it just didn't feel – if you can't get to double-digit wins, it feels different to me.
That feels like a pretty good line in the sand. Successful or not successful season is double-digit wins.
Well, I think it would for a lot of people, because even me, and I was probably a little bit more optimistic than most, I thought that they could get to 9. So overachieving would be, the 10 wins and getting into the postseason for sure. So, this would just be another notch on the belt to get closer to that number. And it comes against a team – listen, I'm with you on the fact that they pretty much have played everyone pretty close, whether Joe Flacco was playing or Anthony Richardson's playing. So, I mean, they're going to have their hands full one way or another. I don't think it's going to be Atlanta-style game.
No, I'm not expecting like a Broncos laugher. Absolutely not.
No. I'm excited to see how they come out of the break. I guess your fear of them being slow, not focused, not disciplined during the break, and that doesn't always have to be just that case. Well, it could just be getting back into the groove of an NFL football game because you'd had that whole week off.
Yeah, you hadn't played one in 13 days. This was Sean's best answer yesterday, though, Cello, the winning season thing. Because remember, this isn't really Sean's hump, right? As Sean infamously said, not like he was here for losing seasons in 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. But still, the fan base has suffered through all of them. Here was Sean on, proud of closing in on a winning season.
I don't know that one person downstairs, myself included, have thought about right now this team just having a winning season. I understand the question and I appreciate it, but I think our aspirations are a little higher.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Not one person, myself included, has thought about, oh my gosh, we could get to 9 wins. We could have our first winning season since 2016. The very end of that. Little higher aspirations. This is why Sean's a great coach, Cello. He can rub people the wrong way. He can be brash. He can have too many lattes and go talk to Jarrett Bell from USA Today. But he tells it like it is. Got a little higher aspirations than saying, oh my gosh, we got 9 wins.
Well, and then just the nature that he's been saying I told you so for over a month now. Because everything we heard, and it was well reported on what he thought about this quarterback, and people are still talking about the decision. If he would have had the first overall pick, would he have taken Bo Nix over the other guys on that list?
Right.
I doubt it. But the amount of praise that he gave to that position going into this season, and it all stems from you go how your quarterback goes. So the amount of belief he had in a rookie quarterback going into it in his first season, I don't think this is a new revelation for him. I think he had 10 marked on his calendar all along, and may have started slower than he wanted to, but now he's like, hey, they've been talking about it within that room for a lot longer than most people, or especially around the nation, but even so here.
And what did he tell his boy from New Orleans? Is it Jeff Duncan? What did he tell Duncan? The next time I win 6 games in a season will be the first.
Yeah. And that was, especially after the 0-2 start and the way they looked.
And 32nd worst or ranked roster, et cetera, rookie quarterback. No, I mean, Sean should be in the running for Coach of the Year. Did you catch the story from Jay Glazer this weekend on the Fox Sports pregame show?
Which one was it?
So I wrote about this.
About how he wanted to show up at his house?
Yeah, so I wrote about this on denversports.com. People can go check it out. Jay Glazer, who is tight with Sean Payton, okay? He is tight with Sean Payton. Reported yesterday, or Sunday, I guess, that Sean Payton wanted to show up at Bo Nix's house and knock on his door to tell the former Oregon star that the Broncos were drafting him.
It's so lame. What is this? Like, how do they do it now when they ask someone to prom or homecoming?
Oh, like you got to do it really elaborate, right?
Broncos ?
Yes. Maybe put some
He
candles
does
in
it
a
within
heart.
a flame out in Bo Nix's front yard, sending flowers all day from an anonymous source in Inglewood.
Here was the Glazer quote yesterday. We all know Sean's crazy, right? We worked with him. Remember, they worked together at Fox Sports. Yeah. Here's the more of the quote. He comes up with this crazy idea like 2 days before the draft. He says, I'm going to fly to where Bo Nix is, and when he gets drafted, I'm going to knock on his door and personally tell him that we're drafting him. Luckily, we talked Sean out of it, but that's how much he loved this dude. Direct quote from Jay Glazer, one of the top NFL insiders on the Fox pregame show on Sunday morning.
That sounds like sometimes the heart just wants what the heart wants, Will. And do you know the song by the famous I Would Walk 1,000 Miles by the Proclaimers?
I didn't know it was by the Proclaimers, but I do know the song.
Yeah, so, I mean, I get it. Like, listen, he's trying to say how much he really liked the guy. The reality of it, how much you put into that actually happening?
Dude, I'd encourage people to go watch the clip. It's embedded on our website. I think Jay Glazer thinks that Sean Payton came yay close, and we're on radio, but I'm showing you my fingers, yay close, about a centimeter apart, to getting on Greg Penner's PJ and going to knock on Bo Nix's door.
I think that's I guess we'll never know.
Well, someone's going to have to ask Sean about it.
I mean, it'll come across at some point, but the reality of it doesn't even make sense in this day and age.
I would love. Can you imagine tomorrow, Cello, Wednesday presser, all the focus on the Colts, getting questions about Riley Moss's health, getting questions about the game plan for the Colts. And some reporter goes, hey, Sean, there was this report over the weekend that you almost went and knocked on Bo Nix's door on the night of the draft. How accurate was that?
It would be sick, though. Like, right, they cut to Bo Nix's living room. He's sitting on the couch with his wife and his parents and his family, and you just see Sean Payton's head poke up from behind the couch, tap him on the shoulder, and say, you're my guy. You're my guy, Bo.
Can you imagine how viral that would have gone?
Yeah.
Sean, now here's the issue. When Penix went 8 to the Falcons, we know for a fact that down there at Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit, there was some panic.
Yeah.
There was some legitimate panic that, if the board didn't fall right and McCarthy to the Vikings or whatever, that Bo may not be there at 12. Can you imagine if Sean was at Bo's house and all of a sudden it's, with the 11th pick, the New York Jets select Bo Nix, quarterback Oregon?
Oh, you needed a film crew for it to watch him turn around and pout and walk away and pick somebody else, maybe Brock Bowers.
You think George would have liked that? A little more peace and quiet down there at headquarters?
Yeah.
No Sean in the building that night?
And calling him at 6 a.m. to get Troy Franklin.
Yeah, texting him. Apparently that was early for Sean. That's another thing I want to talk about is all of a sudden all these people, we got to give George Payton all this credit. Why? The last 2 drafts were Sean Payton's drafts. We have evidence that not only Nix was his pick, but Franklin in the 4th round was his pick. And all these Twitter trolls want to say, where's all the credit for George Payton? Guys, we can't kill Sean Payton for some of these decisions, and then all of a sudden say, well, Jonah Ellis looks good. George Payton nailed that. These drafts were Sean Payton's drafts. I heard Zach and Phil talk about that the other day and almost drove off the road. I was like, why are we giving George all these flowers when Sean did all this stuff?
Well, I mean, the great elixir is a quarterback, right? And he got that right guy there. So, like, listen, a lot of these drafts where the Broncos look like they've had complete failures, just go back to the quarterback position. And what did they have? If you have a open door year in and year out at that position, you're not going to – I doubt how many teams are going to be saying that, wow, they drafted really well.
Well, Paxton scarred him. I mean, now we're going back to the Elway era.
No,
Paxton
that's what I'm saying.
Scarred John, and they didn't take another quarterback other than Drew Lock in the second round.
That's why a quarterback covers so many warts and deficiencies on a football team. Because tell me how many teams are like drafted super well, but just didn't have a quarterback, and how they get graded even 3 years post a draft.
Right.
Because it comes down to the most important position in all of professional sports, having to be competent to lead a team.
But this softening on George Payton, when he hired the worst coach in NFL history in Nathaniel Hackett, made one of the worst trades in NFL history in Russell Wilson before Sean Payton got here, and now Sean's coming in running the show, and all of a sudden people want to tell me, look how great George is. Guys, the evidence I have was that George was not very good at his job, and then he got some help and suddenly became competent at his job. That doesn't mean that George has suddenly found the magical pill of how to be an NFL GM. That's all I'm saying.
No, I agree with you there. I mean, I'm not giving him flowers. At all. I mean,
flowers? Can we give him one flower? Nick Bonito. That was a George Payton draft pick in 2022. Sean was on a set at Fox, okay? So I'm not just here to just pick on George. I will give him that flower. I will pick that dandelion and hand it to George for Nick Bonito.
Well, broken clock is right at least twice a day. Sun shines on every once in a while. I mean, over time, especially with what they're doing here, I mean, you could even say he didn't seem like he really loved the decision to move up to get Troy Franklin. Like, he looked at when they did that interview, it was like he was annoyed that he texted him.
You're talking about George?
Yeah. So, I mean, and going back to I Told You So Island with Sean Payton is he said he was better at it than most. At selecting quarterbacks. He said that he believes they're better at it than most. And
he did say that at the Combine.
We're all
this year.
very critical of that comment, saying, well, you better get it right. And through this point of the season, it looks like he got it right.
Well, and when he said that at the Combine, we all thought it was JJ.
Yeah.
And he bluffed us well that it wasn't JJ, it was Bo. So that's another interesting thing in all of this is he made that comment. You're right. We all sort of latched onto that comment, but that comment was also sort of a diversion to the other teams around him, too.
Yeah, because, I mean, when you say something like that, I guess you're probably right. I mean, I would have thought it was either that or Drake May, maybe, something like that. At that point, when he made the comment, he was still a solid second-round pick in Bo Nix.
Moved way up.
Yeah.
That private workout in Eugene where they fell in love with him and apparently fell in love so much they wanted to fly to his house, or at least Sean did. All right, fun stuff. Don't forget that Denver Sports is on YouTube. Would love for you to go find us on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel. A lot of great stuff on there. Cecil Lammy, Andrew Mason, Jake Shapiro, James Marilat, Richie Carney, Joey doing Denver Sports Daily, myself, Cello. We are all over our YouTube channel.